What's up, everyone? This is the Tesla Beat podcast number 146. Little bummed. Matthew had some prior engagements he had to deal with. He may be dropping in. Who knows? We'll see. But Joe and Brian, how are you guys doing?
I'm
Oh
good.
man, I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's something going on. There's a ticket on sale, and if you haven't bought it, the only good excuse is because you're buying it right now and you're in checkout. This is I will leave that to you guys to explain it. But today's an exciting day. I don't know. I just feel pretty good.
Joe, what happened?
Oh, I don't know. People like to take over things.
Yeah, so what they are referring to is yesterday we released we opened up the gates for ticketing. We announced that the X takeover, which we've been quietly working for months behind the scenes to find the perfect venue, will be hosted at the Giga Texas South lot, which is huge. So we are moving the event from California all the way to Austin, which is very central. And with that, we announced also too, we will be having May Musk come back as our keynote speaker. For those who were blessed in California to have her, now we will be able to share her wonderful stories, the launch of her new book, Timeless, and many more things on October 10th. And so, I think those two things, we sold over 570 tickets within 24 hours. And that is not something we've ever done. We've typically sold that amount within the first month of the launch. So either way, huge shout out to the Tesla community for just showing love. I think, us as planners in the background, you never know, you don't really always get to see signal as you're planning these events. And yesterday was insane signal. And we are even as Brian was mentioning, right? This is based on your guys's return, purchasing of tickets. This allows us to get a really good signal of what type of numbers we're going to get to. This event will sell out at 1,500 tickets. We've sold close to 570 or past 570 now, and so I would not wait. There will potentially be opportunities if we decide to open up tours. Again, this is not dependent on us. If you have a general admission, it will be first come, first serve, people getting emails based on where they signed up. So again, it's important that you purchase your tickets. And again, just a reminder, this is a community run event, 100% volunteer. Outside of, we'll obviously have some Tesla security alongside us as we are on their wonderful Giga
Campus.
Texas, campus. Could not find that word, but either way, and if you see, Brian's beautiful face, Joe's beautiful face, and my ugly face, here, this is all because of the Insta 360, the amazing work and camera that they have. If you ever travel, I mean, this thing is like less. It's a cup. It feels like you could just stick this in your pocket pretty much. It's like this. It feels like the weight of like AirPods almost. So go ahead and check them out. Give them some love. It'll follow you around as Joe's, still wondering if he'll ever get summoned on his Cybertruck. Good luck on that one. But
The last thing I wanted to say on that is it's a big event. It's an all-day event. It's a lot of fun. And so far, only one thing has been announced, and that's May Musk is going to be there. There are nothing but announcements yet to come. So if you're
Yeah, it's
looking for a
crazy.
good reason, things will be added. And I'll give you guys a spoiler alert. Food trucks. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a
dude, how
lot.
did you know, man? How did you know?
There's gonna be
Uh,
food. True
but
story.
I will say this. This has been something we've been working on for months. And, we've had to kind of keep it under wraps until, all of the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed. And once that happened, we're now working kind of backwards. Whereas previous years, you lock down the location, you lock down the date, like, almost 10 months in advance. And, you're able to start selling tickets. This is completely different. We're, now we haven't technically even signed an exhibitor yet. I mean, that's how raw this is right now. So we're going to go we will have no problems in getting sponsors and exhibitors, but we've done this enough now to know like this is going to be a banging event, and we are so thankful to host it where it's at, to bring May and so many other big speakers, and then we're gonna have panelists as well. We'll have to see how deep that list will go. But with all of that said, truly appreciate the Tesla fam for supporting a community run event. So just a little bit. All right, so 146, let's jump into it. Tesla stock. Matthew provided some awesome feedback last week just for us. He's like, hey, pull up the past like 7 days to kind of see how the stock performed over the week. It pretty much was flat. I guess you could say that. It's up 1% since last week, but year to date, it's at negative 2.3%. So it did go up, but it really is nice to see the stock well into the 200s, not just at like 405 or something. So it's been hovering at that 440 and it dropped a little bit, it looks like this morning, to 427. So good to see, but nice to see it with a 4 in front of it. All right, Joe, hit us with the big one, man. 30 trillion.
Yeah, no, Ron Barron is always like so optimistic, but he has a pretty good insight, I mean. So I mean, he was early on, like a lot of people know, but yeah, he was like, man, to think of SpaceX and Tesla, he goes, this is like when speaking of like potential IPO in the merger of the companies, he says this could be a 10 trillion, 20 or $30 trillion company, he says, and he thinks that that's like on the low side. So it was pretty cool. Herbert had a really cool video on it. Pretty dope. It's been a pretty good week. He's
Well,
muted.
You could say that. Well, he's so off the charts. He's so crazy. He's definitely going to be wrong. Okay, so what if it's 10 trillion? What if it's 3 trillion? Guys, I mean, if you shoot for the stars by that much and you wind up on the moon, I think you still got to space.
Exactly. One thing I did want to say was I wanted to kind of go over his quote. This is going to become the largest company. Oh, so that's SpaceX. My bad. I was about to. So
no,
SpaceX,
no, that was the they were talking because she was asking him about the potential merger of the companies and what that could look like, and so that's what he was talking about.
Well, if you've been sticking your head in a hole, you would know that these companies are not going to merge at all. Well, obviously that's probably not going to happen. So all I can say is Elon is setting up this company in a way where he's making sure he has absolute control, right, based on the 30 or 40% that he owns of SpaceX. But if there is a merger with Tesla, it's going to make it, again, he's going to have that control because one's going to be absorbing the other, right? And with the IPO price of SpaceX right now, it is worth more than Tesla. But with that said, if you believe that there's going to be data centers in space, which the cost is going to be so much cheaper, and Tesla owns the only ride up to space right now here in the US, and really in the world, right? Because they do 90% of the payload. But this is going to be 10, 20, 30 trillion, and who knows even if he's talking, if that is with the the merger itself. But all that to say is Tesla's future is very bright, along with the work that they'll be doing with SpaceX, and at some point, if and when they merge.
Yeah, he made it a point to say that none of this, and people like to talk about the negativity of Elon Musk, but he went on to say that none of this is possible without Musk. You know what I mean? Like all these things are happening because he's so driven and he pushes people to their absolute limits, and they succeed where others would fail. And I mean, there wasn't any return rockets. You know what I mean? It just wasn't a thing. But now it's a thing, and now a lot of people can see the path forward to that. Even Blue Origin, some other companies are making headways into that space because that's a thing. And there was a video, I didn't put it in the deck, but there was a video of like all these people who control the world, like wanting to take selfies with Elon, and he's just sitting there, and everybody just coming up to him. You know, what I mean, people from the China Republic, Tim Cook, and like all these people are like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?" It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to frown on like what he's doing, but you just cannot shadow the success of what he has done and what he's accomplished for the world and for people in general.
Well, I think the shocking thing here is that the shocking thing here is that you have one guy who didn't just make like one company, right? You're talking 6, 7 company. You're losing track at this point, right? It's Boring Company, Neuralink, SpaceX, um, Tesla, Neuralink. If I hadn't already mentioned that, XAI. Again, it's just, all of these companies are coming together. And so there's really few people who in our lifetimes, depending on the generation that you're in, it's just, who've made this type of impact.
Oh, show me second place. I'd like to see where second place is. When Elon was creating these companies and getting all of them into a position where they were undeniably important and impactful to the trend of technology, if not the fate of humanity. My question is, okay, so who's next? Where's the next one of these? And I'm still waiting. So this is a pretty unique situation.
Pretty unique situation. Um, yeah, I agree, right? Like I remember, like for me, the world's richest man when I was growing up was Bill Gates. And there was no close second. It was just that was like, everyone would just talk about Bill Gates. And now you see someone, and also too, again, Bill Gates, don't get me wrong, he probably started, I don't know exactly the Microsoft store, if they started in Garage as well, like a lot of these other companies. But not many companies will go through what Elon did. Obviously, they'll have the struggles to kind of get where they are. But, when you think of, what Elon did with PayPal, made his 200 million, and then what does he do? He goes and puts it into putting it into companies where you can literally throw it in the burner. And that's what he did. Capital intensive companies, rockets and cars. No one in
Bad
their right
planning.
mind would go down that. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, so you've got a lifetime's worth of money. What are you gonna do? Let's put it all on red.
Exactly. All right. So, safer than human pilot. Tesla Vision allows us to deploy airbags up to 70 milliseconds earlier if your Tesla detects an unavoidable collision. They also, I think in the last 14.3, right, there was over a 20%. It now reacts 20% faster. So, this rate continues to get better. And who knows, even when this accident happened, when it did, who knows if it was even on this latest version, but it's just um, driving a Tesla. Not only are you protecting yourself and your family, but you are protecting other people's in a lot of ways, especially when you're on full self driving, just because the stats are it is 6 to 7 times safer per mile than humans. So
There's an optimal time to deploy the airbags, and I don't know exactly when that time is. I'm sure it varies by the speed of the vehicle, but the real limit is when can you trigger a sensor? And if the sensor is in your bumper, the bumper has to crush and deform to the point where it touches the sensor before you can deploy an airbag. Except, well, I mean, the cameras are kind of watching everything happen. They know when the collision's coming and they will trigger it at the exact right millisecond for maximum safety. And when you hear about it, you go, of course they will. That's so obvious. Why didn't everyone think of it? And maybe in the future, others will be doing that, but today they're not. So if you want safety, if safety is important to you, if you want your kids in the safest vehicle, I mean, you know what you have to do.
just a little bit.
You have to get a Tesla.
All right, Joe, can you hit this one?
Yes, as a previous Model S owner, I can tell you that it was good times having a Model S, but those good times are over. The last Model S and Model X have been produced at Fremont Factory, 14 years of history for the Model S, 11 years for the Model X, and you can see it. Like there's I mean, there's not going to be nothing like this. Like even, I mean, like yeah, the Sapphire might be quicker or whatever, but for the price and for what you get, there's nothing like these vehicles, especially the Plaid version. Like you're not gonna get a sub $100,000 vehicle that can like blow the doors off of your Bugatti at a stoplight. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen. So
And then pick up groceries on the way home, grab your dry cleaning.
by
Bugatti,
itself, will drive by itself.
right, right. Who, yeah. Real luxury is spending $100,000 on a BMW and then having to drive it in traffic.
And not put on your blinker, BMW drivers.
Well, those are decorative.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, we've talked a little bit about this, I know, on the episode, and I know you, Brian, on your channel, you've probably hashed this out a bunch as well. But yeah, I mean, the Model S is a flagship car that will go down as, the first ever, electric vehicle that was actually something desirable, that was actually a great option to buy over gas. That was, again, exceptional. That really created a standard. And there is, that the 2014, 2015, even Model S's that are still amazing cars, especially if they have low mileage and stuff. And there's cars that are coming out today that are still not at that standard, right? And so I think it really speaks volumes for how well this car led in its space for so many years, and then getting it from all the way from the P100D, ludicrous, all the way up to the Plaid, P90, P85, all of those batteries. Really cool just to see, how well they held the crown for being most luxurious, the standard, full self-driving, fastest production car ever made at one point. And so it's just really cool to see, that kind of come to an end. And really, I feel like the closure of this one, as much as it hurts, again, Joe has, owned a Model S. I have owned 2 Model X's. As much as it hurts of the chapter being closed, there's no better chapter to close than the Model S, to then open up a brand new book into Optimuses. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's really exciting to see this company go and really lean into this next book that they're opening. There's a lot of companies where, it's a harder transition. You're figuring out your identity, but the path could not be clearer for Tesla and where they're going. So I'm really, really proud of that team. There were some, I think, videos even released of, people putting on some of the last parts. Obviously, you saw a bunch of people signing it, and those are some of the hardest working people at that factory. And so really cool to see them, put the last signatures on it and give it to, I think the S is probably going to go to Steve Jurvetson. He's going to get the last one. He had the first one. He's going to get the last one. All right. Tesla sees what you can't. This is similar to the last one, right? And Elon posted this. The human perceived RGB is image 1, and the Tesla AI photon count reconstruction is image 2. This is why Tesla FSD can see well at night or through extreme glare. And I can honestly speak to the fact that the glare has increased so much. Like V12, V13 were garbage compared to V14. And the fact that they have doubled, what is it, the image level of the RGB, right, to image 2 and taken it up, is just like next level. And I rarely have any problems now with glare. Sometimes I'll need to like go and clean some of the side cameras just because there's dust and stuff on it. But it has really gotten that good. And this is why the cars are safer than us, because they can see things and go through things that we can't.
Last night I was driving home, hour drive through the pouring rain, and at one point the car said, "Okay, I'm reducing maximum available speed to 5 over the speed limit." We weren't even going that fast. The car just wanted me to know, because we were set in standard, and that was the flow of traffic. And my gang said to me, "How is it that the car is able to actually drive in the rain now. Version 11 really struggled in the rain.
Yeah.
Version 12 a bit better, but it can see. And the answer is this: what we just saw. It can see through the noise to the signal, and it just can ignore things in ways humans struggle to. Uh, and then, of course, I had them pull that up on the browser so they could see it and s- understand what's going on. How do they do it? Magic. It's just magic, you guys.
It's straight magic. Yeah, I think that was a big topic of conversation. Like, oh, but you can't in the fog, and you need lidar, and then you see. I mean, no shade to Waymo, but you see the the limitations of lidar all the time. Like they're always getting stuck. Things are always happening. What they can't do, what FSD can do, and then you realize vision is the way. And the vision that the Tesla has is far better than what we see as a human. So we're just like, oh, but I can't see. So of course it's going to get stuck. It's like, no, it's not going to get stuck because it sees a lot better than we do.
A thing I've had recently, and I've shared it on the channel, other viewers have said they've had similar experiences, is where you experience phantom braking only to discover that no, that's a pedestrian dressed in all black crossing nowhere near a crosswalk, indifferent to you. It's like, well, I'm glad my car cares about your life more than you do because I didn't see you.
Yeah.
Man, for real.
Yeah, Joe and I, it's kind of funny. Joe and I were driving back. I think it was when we got 1432 or
Yep.
one of them, 1431. And I love the Cybertruck, but one of the things that is horrible sometimes is the visibility in front of the car. So that's why the front camera is important. But when you're driving on FSD, you don't have the front camera on, right? And we were just driving, and next thing I know, like both of our faces are going like, kind of like slow motion forward, and we're like, "What in the world?" And this cat had literally come in front of a car that was parked on the side of the road, and so there's no way that cat, if my wheels had touched it, would be gone, right? It's just,
Oh yeah.
but it stopped, within, again, milliseconds. And this car had, it didn't even have to use one of its lives, right? Like it just, it got another life added to it, or it was just the life that would have been used, would have been taken, was saved for another day. But yeah, Tesla is able to, again, just handle things that we have no idea, that we as humans would not be able to react as
Yeah,
quickly.
there was a video of a pedestrian in China who stepped off the curb, fell off the curb. You know, what I mean, like this is something out of the blue. Wouldn't have even you couldn't have even reacted. And FSD swerved, ended up swerving into the lane, saved a human. I mean, hit a car, but because it swerved into the other lane. But holy cow, it just ran right over that man because that was just such a sudden jump, just like that cat just came out of nowhere because it was behind a car that was parked on the side of the road and just jutted out in front of it. We wouldn't have saw it. It's
No,
crazy.
there's even if I had the camera open, it like the time that it would have taken for my foot to hit the brake, it would have been a little bit slower. Especially, again, the Cybertruck is 7,000 pound vehicle. So
Yeah.
Tesla being able to see it before it happened was huge. All right, Joe, this one's to you, man.
Zachariah. So Zach Black Model 3, if anybody is aware. So they set the new Cannonball run record from Cali to New York, and that's freaking amazing that they were able to do it. But not only did they do it, but they didn't do it because they weren't driving. The vehicle was driving. Zero disengagements or human intervention. FSD 14.3.2, 2,833 miles, 49 hours, 55 minutes. It's crazy. It beat the previous record by 8.5 hours, which is insane to even think about. It's just
What
FSC's
a
that good.
low stress way to do the cannonball. Yeah, you can
For
you
real.
can without breaking a sweat cross the country in 49 hours without touching the wheel. That's that's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy that we've gotten to a point now where that is really the case, right? You can go from Seattle or San Diego all the way to, the top of New York or to the Keys West if you wanted to. And just being able to see that, Tesla, and again, Elon talked about this years back, obviously, to probably cross the amount of counties and states and stuff. But Tesla could, outside of plugging itself in right now, could literally drive all the way across the country.
Yeah.
But if someone was to meet it there and plug it in, or once mobile charging comes, they'll be able to do that. But at the end of the day, it's really cool to see people like David, Zach, and Dan, do this drive, right? And really just set the example to I think really everyone of what's possible.
Yeah, I think it goes a lot of times it goes missed that I mean, there's a lot of new people that are getting Teslas, just because it's a safer vehicle or it's a better vehicle or whatever, but you really the self-driving aspect of it, like, is so underrated, and, I mean, it's not to us because 'cause we're in that bubble, right? But there's so many people that have no idea. I mean, I posted this on Facebook and people were like, it's impossible." Well, it's not impossible. It happened.
And it's been happening multiple times too. So
Yeah.
that's the crazy thing.
It's not like a one-off, yeah.
Yeah, if it's repeatable, I mean, if you don't believe it, go do it.
Yeah.
All right, 750,000 Model Ys made in Berlin.
Probably nothing. Probably no big deal.
Yeah,
Giga Berlin has tremendous capacity. They could be building 500,000 a year, but they're not. There've been some headwinds, but one of the big ones is, where can you sell all these cars and how much cheaper are Chinese cars going to be? Chinese cars have a good foothold in Europe already. It's still getting stronger. But 750,000, we saw just before that, they'd announced 1,000,000 drive units. So they had been, of course, you're going to sell more drive units than cars because a lot of them are all-wheel drive, but clearly a lot of them are not. The more you scale, the cheaper it gets, and these are now using, or will soon be using, if not already, 4680s made right there on the campus. This is how you drive down prices. This is how you get your costs under control and remain profitable while doing so. The lower the price you can get, the more market share you can capture, and we're seeing that. And Tesla Giga Berlin is making the Model Ys that are being sold in Canada. So that gives them a lot
Oh,
more opportunity. So
that's
they
crazy.
are, yeah, they, you got to figure out which country has the lowest tariff rate. There you go. So they
That's
are putting the puzzle pieces together for that. Canada's also getting their Model 3s from Shanghai now because they're able to do it at a price that is frankly insane. Um, and so they're, moving a whole lot of units. And more markets are still opening up. Every time that happens, there's a little bit more room to get more units out the door, drive costs down even further.
I think it can't be understated that the price of a Model Y versus some of these, Chinese vehicles, like, this isn't the cheapest vehicle, and it's still outselling most of them. And people will I mean, there's been a lot of, they show you all these Chinese vehicles, and they're like, "Oh, man, that's luxury. I can't wait to get that over here." And it's like, guess what? They're they're over there, and the people are still buying Teslas. So it's like, yeah, it's a great vehicle, but when you come to
I would argue,
self-driving.
I would argue that German buyers probably have a demand for a refined ride feel that exceeds that of other countries. They have a manufacturing tradition that means they're familiar with BMWs and Mercedes and Porsches, and that a lot of the Chinese cars, the one thing that some of them are still struggling with, the last thing that manufacturers end up fixing is the ride performance, the ride feel. The suspension tuning is quite a challenge. China has a long history of making cars. They do not have a long history of making heavy cars. And getting the suspension sorted out, even with the Xiaomis, even with the nicer BYDs, the suspension is not quite as refined. And I think that that's an area where, especially the new Model Y, the new Model 3, the ride is fantastic, and discriminating buyers will want that.
The one sleeper too, I think for Giga Berlin will be the Semi, right? As we know, Europe is very green thinking. You see it happening in Norway and some of these other, EU countries in the European countries in the EU. And I think it's once they are able to turn that on. So I don't even know. I don't think anything's been publicly said. So who knows if it's even happening. But once, obviously they need to get the production rolling out here, hopefully first, right? Get that, and it's going, right? We've seen some of the images of the first ones rolling off and things like that. And we see it even happening with the Cybercab. But all I'm trying to say is once they hit that, all right, we're getting a good flow of moving these vehicles, whenever they can turn this on at Berlin, I really think that the Semi will do really well there because again, a lot of these routes are going to be similar to here, in California, right? You're not going to, I think a lot of these routes are, especially because you can drive through so many countries in like 5 hours. You'll go through five countries in Europe. It feels like kind of like, going from New York to Florida, right? You pass through so many different states. And so I'm really excited about, seeing how well Giga Berlin is doing. 750,000 is no small feat. But being able to continue to sell the best selling car in the world out of Berlin on top of the potential that will be there with the Semi.
There is Germany is a very competitive market. There's a very strong domestic market with all the brands we just mentioned, plus Volkswagen and others. Uh, but there's also the Chinese competition. So the fact that you can sell any in Germany is pretty miraculous. It's as impressive as how many they sell in Korea, where there are years when Hyundai Kia captures 75% plus of the market, and now Tesla's coming in hot. The Semi is tricky because Europe has overall length restrictions that the Tesla Semi doesn't quite fit with. But maybe they are already making a European variant. They've got the land in Giga Berlin. They've got the battery cell manufacturing right there. They've got all the pieces to put together. And the reason we're not seeing it today is because they're focused on the factory in Nevada. Let's get that
Yeah.
up and running, and then we'll talk.
And we know that they can do that, right? Because what did we see with the YL, right? They put out a brand new vehicle in a completely different market than the US. So based on like spec differences and things like that and the market. So they can easily put out one version in the US and potentially trim it down to make it more EU regulation friendly.
Well, Priestley said the Semi is already homologated for everywhere.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that but they wouldn't be able to use the standard full length trailer. They'd be over length, so they could run it with shorter trailers. I don't know how much of the market that would capture.
But I mean, Tesla doesn't make trailers.
That's the thing, is the trailers already exist.
Yeah.
So do they work with the trailers that we have? Is it sufficiently flexible for that? So, but again, these are commercial customers. They know exactly what their application is.
Yeah.
It either fits or it doesn't.
Facts.
All right, Joe, this one's to you, man.
Yeah, this is everybody just chill. It's only $250 million. Calm down. So so today they announced well, this is day for yesterday, but we announced a $250 million investment in our Giga Berlin cell factory. This will enable 18 gigawatts of annual 4680 cell production. And that's creating 1,500 new jobs. So they're just continuing to invest over there. And I think Brian, you get it.
That building is very small compared to Tesla's other main buildings and other. If you look at Giga Nevada, which has a capacity of 35 gigawatt hours, this is not half the size of Giga Nevada. This is a fraction of the size, which means they've gotten their footprint situation under control. They can make a whole lot of batteries in a very small space. And
I
that's
didn't
what
think
you
about
need.
that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's what you need is the ability to do more with less. That's why Giga Nevada was originally meant to be what 6 times the size it is today, but lower capacity than it is today. This just shows, and all that distance is money. All that length is extra equipment that you don't need anymore. So they are, yeah, and this should, according to Tesla, drive down the cost of the most expensive ingredient of the car. That component, the battery, is the big cost. Drive it down.
Drive it down, baby. All right, so this is really cool. Yeah, really cool. Cybercab was rocking a Starlink Mini on the back. I do think that there is a world coming where you will see Starlink integrated, like their little satellite or all their little components in a Tesla. Like I think it's a matter of time, and it is going to make even more sense depending on how this mounting works. But we saw it when San Francisco power outage, right? We saw all the Waymos just like crashing out. But this is what will keep not only the Tesla Pure Vision up, which it actually had no issues when the power went out, because again, their cell service and everything else is just, it's not going to be disrupted by power outages. But this will make it even more bulletproof. So really cool to see that. And again, seeing the overlap of connections between Tesla and SpaceX. One other fun fact too is actually if you go to the Fremont factory on the track, as you're kind of like looping, part of the you doing part of the loop, there's actually a bunch of, like, I think it looks like big balloons that are just sitting in the field. Those are all Starlinks. So there's already a lot of integration between Tesla and SpaceX as far as like the connectivity. I can't say because I know anything if Tesla is using only Starlink service at the Fremont headquarters. What I can say is it's definitely at bare minimum a backup if the main service goes out. But they do have like 20 huge little like balloons just sitting in the middle of the track, that you'll loop as you're getting your face blown off going on a plaid.
Well, and you
Uh,
got to figure the cost for internet service at a building with thousands of employees, the amount of data they may have to move in and out of the headquarters could be astronomical. And those gateways, at the very least, they're being used to test the gateways for Starlink um, as a favor to a sister company. I'm sure there is a sweetheart deal of some sort, but how much the cost per gigabit is outrageous when you get into the commercial space. And yeah, if it is just the backup, I mean, that makes sense too. They, of course, would get a unique deal on that. But yeah, it's exciting to see it all in action.
in action.
You rent a Cybercab and you have like internet. Pretty cool.
Joe, I'll pass this one to you.
You must clean the robotaxi. So Tesla has reportedly submitted plans for a car wash dedicated for robotaxis in Las Vegas. The permit filed with the Clark County on May 12th describes the Tesla Center as a Cybercab Phase 2 car wash. According to the project description, the work involves interior and exterior improvements of existing facility, including the construction of a car wash enclosure, relocation, and entire service equipment. So they're going to be like full service everything for the for the robotaxi, which is pretty cool. So you have like a full service hub, cleaning and everything. So that's going to be wild to see like all these robotaxis just going in and out throughout the day.
Yeah, you see it. I think I saw like a news story that ran on Waymo's service in San Francisco, and theirs has a lot of humans involved, right? But I think,
Yes.
given how Tesla will do this, I already know that they already have a robotaxi hub um in Austin, right? They're probably going to have a couple, if not But with Tesla, what people forget is they have all these service centers. They can set up several hubs throughout the area. And at some point too, they're going to set this stuff up with Optimuses or, literally like just like little machines that can kind of go in without being an actual robot. It's going to be these cars just moving through. And so it's really cool that they're already thinking about this because Vegas is not even a hotspot that we've really been hearing about robotaxi, right? And so we know that they're doing a lot of hiring, but here for them to be able to, be already looking in cities that they're not released the full service is really cool. But here in the Bay Area, we're at the Fremont factory, they got, the Palo Alto headquarters, they got office, and I haven't even gone over all the service centers that they have here. So they'll set up those hubs, but this is what Tesla again is they're thinking, oh, we have a robotaxi network. How do we automate this? And how do we set up the whole service from end to end? Right.
Optimi. Yeah, I seen that video for the Waymo, and they had
Yep.
like a person just with towels and a person with just the liquids and a person pushing the carts, and everybody had to swap out towels after it was a production. It was a production, and I mean you had like just people like I mean so many people standing around waiting for their turn or whatever when you're looking at an automated process like what you're describing and like what we've seen Tesla hint at in their video is just something where the car just goes through, gets cleaned up and continues on, and now you include the Optimi. It's going to be crazy.
All right, Tesla Semi EPTO. Power your refrigerator, trailer, and other equipment with up to 25 kilowatts from the Semi's EPTO. Shout out to Mario, but he, just to kind of give you a little bit more details, Tesla Semi EPTO now powers your trailer. Those noisy diesel fridge motors humming behind the trailers for hours gone. Now the truck powers your complete refrigeration directly from the power pack. So, like I said, we'll see. I'll be really interested to see, how are these semi drivers customizing their semis? Because again, when Joe and I went down to Ontario, we went to that semi, or when we went to the semi yard, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing like 200 people are literally like living in their semis. The diesel trucks are going even through the night, it felt like. And so it'll be really interesting to see, how people, build cabins in these things. And this stuff will come in super clutch to do all of those things. And now you don't need to waste any gas. It's going to be so much more efficient, 50% cheaper per mile here in California. So pretty wild. All right, Joe, what is the upbeat, man?
This is our rapid news segment. We have reached the moment, folks.
The big moment. All right, Brian, you're on the spot. Boring transport.
Probably nothing. Most of tunneling companies, when they're done with a boring rig, they just tunnel it into the dirt and wall it off. It is entombed in the hill or mountain or ground where it was working. That's the whole point of the boring companies. We reuse our rigs. This one's moving across town. We've got some other tunnel to start somewhere else. They finished the little stretch there out to that hotel. So we're going to move it over. And the most exciting part is we don't have to dig a pit. We just point it at the ground and set it loose. Hopefully it doesn't cause too many tremors, but if it does, Kevin Bacon will be there to shoot it.
Dude, I did not know that. So whenever they previously before the boring company, they would just leave the rigs in the freaking that is wild.
Yes. And that's why boring company came about is somebody at the end of a tunnel didn't bury it and it went up for auction. And Elam's like, that thing looks primitive. I bet I could do it better. Buy it. So he bought one and hired some engineers to say, what could we do better? And here we are.
That's crazy.
And
like the reusable rockets.
Exactly. And the other thing too is what makes Boring Company unique from tunneling is that their goal is to have no one in the tunnel at all while it's drilling. So it's not only drilling, but it's also pulling out the rock and dirt at the same time. And so that's what makes it fully autonomous. And someone from at least what Steve shared with me, who's he said that they're literally running it kind of like, Falcon 9s are running from Hawthorne and Starships being run from Hawthorne as well. They're running it from Bastrop, even though it's in Vegas and Tennessee and all these different places. So, these things are not going like even being they're not being run locally, which is even crazier. But
Yeah, it's pretty
the
cool.
amount of regulation that goes into doing the Boring Company goes way down when you don't have anyone in the actual tunnel itself. So that's the main reason for building that autonomous drill.
If you can get all the people out, OSHA becomes a very different set of guidelines. Humans are fragile. Citation needed.
Fragile. Joe, new seat. Who dis?
Yeah, a Tesla patent reveals electromagnetic suspension seats. Now I gotta think this is like either for the semi or the Robovan, but Brian, you think it's probably for the semi, right?
It's got to be. It's got to be.
Yeah, that makes some way
Yeah,
more sense.
yeah. When I've sat in the semi seat, this definitely
It's
looks like
comfortable.
one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Heck yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Actually, and we've talked to the drivers. Nobody's ever complained about the seats. It's just Tesla just continuing to iterate and get better. That's crazy.
Exactly. All right, Brian, Singapore YL deliveries.
I'm a little obsessed with the Model YL this week. Kyle
Yeah.
Connor went out. The video came out about it within the last week, but he was at the Beijing Auto Show. Kyle is 6'1". He got in the front seat on the passenger side, adjusted it to where he'd want it. Got in the second row and did the same. Got in the third row and still had a little bit of knee clearance at 6'1". So that means the YL actually fits people. I've been there. I've seen it myself. It's exciting and it's spreading. It is going across Oceania and Southeast Asia first. We have seen test models in both Texas and in Germany. This car is everything you like about the Model Y, but a little bit more. This is exciting times, and I hope we get it before the end of the year.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I feel like it's been very clear that this is coming. I mean, we saw it go up on the website and then obviously immediately taken down once Drive Canada posted it. I think that there's been some sightings here, even in the Bay Area. I personally haven't seen it. So I mean, there's all of the signal for it to come
Yeah.
is here.
Yeah, the fact that they're not talking about it is is probably the biggest signal.
Exactly. All right, Joe.
That's
Rest in
you.
peace. Joe, to you. Rest in peace, XAI.
Long live SpaceX AI. So SpaceX officially filed a new trademark application for the word mark SpaceX AI. So if you've been living under a rock, you need to know that XAI is now under the SpaceX umbrella, and now it's going to be SpaceX AI. Pretty awesome. The trademark has been accepted by the office, and things are going forward. They are making moves.
Yeah, it was inevitable. I mean, especially once
Yeah.
you did all this stuff, but I mean, especially with how XAI is going to be really focused on building, space data centers, right? It's kind of funny that you can combine it and it still has its full meaning.
I thought it was going to go under Tesla, to be honest with you. So this to me signals more of that merger thing that nobody wants to talk about.
That's not happening, so whatever. All right. Brian, to you. Ireland FSD inbound.
Ireland is one of many countries in the EU that has the authority to do something a little bit on their own. That's not their plan. Their hope is that they will be able to just adopt the EU rules that allow FSD. The exciting part of this story is they've said that Tesla has been in talks with us, even knowing that we're just going to adopt the EU rules. What that means is Tesla is telling them, tell us what you need to see, tell us what you need to know, we'll make it happen. So when it's time for you to vote on this policy, you can vote in the EU in the affirmative. That means they're doing it with all the countries. That means that all the countries have someone dedicated to them who will say, what do you need? Let's get this approved. When the vote comes, it should be soon. Make it happen. We're going to roll it out wide and safely. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. I mean, and the good thing is that it just takes one country. And we saw it happen with the Netherlands. There's strong signal that Belgium is next. It's great to see Ireland, obviously, because I think they're part of the UK and stuff. So yeah, just really, really cool to see all of this happening. And it hopefully just becomes a spiral effect, with the Netherlands.
So the Northern Ireland is part of UK. Ireland is part of the EU.
Great correction.
I've never lived there.
What's that? No. All right. So Joe, this one's to you, man. Freedom comes with every Tesla.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. This is a guy with no arms who bought himself a new Model Y. So Tesla commented on this. For a driver born without arms, FSD supervises life-changing accessibility. And he was quoted here, I was born without any arms. I have driven with my feet my entire life. I'm a fully licensed driver and traditionally drove with my left foot on the steering wheel and my right foot handling the gas and brake. The only legal restrictions are automatic transmissions and power steering. So over the years, though, the strain from his congenital birth defects led to significant arthritis in his hips. So having a self-driving vehicle and knowing that he actually is fully licensed, this is the freedom that we talk about with a lot of people who deal with Tesla products and anything that man Musk touches. Like, it just gives you so much more accessibility back. He could go do things now. It's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. All right. So we're getting close to the top of the hour. So there may have been a couple other stories, but here, let me just get us to the last slide. Oh, it was the last slide. Jeez. Okay. So the next slide was the last slide. Okay. So if you didn't tune into the beginning of the show, why would you miss the beginning? We made the big announcement yesterday that May Musk is coming. This is going to be held at Giga Austin on October 10th. And, we couldn't be more excited. So make sure you go to xtakeover.com. I will say VIP and 420 more tickets outside of the VIP sold. So we sold 570. And with that, that's been the most tickets we've ever sold in our launch day. So big signal that this is going to be an outstanding event. So go to xtakeover.com. I will say that we'll be making a lot more announcements, and people that already have their tickets will be, if we are launching more activities where there's add-ons and other activities that you can do, though the general admission will be getting the first hits. So make sure you have your tickets so you can get activated and be in the know. But get your tickets at xtakeover.com, and more announcements coming. Couple of things, support us, subscribe to us as well, subscribe to Brian and his channel. Also too, Nori, shout out to them, an AI family planning app. I've been using it. I have a family of 6. We got a lot of activities going on all the time, and I'm getting the right notifications. So it's a great AI tool to kind of bring chaos, to take the chaos in your family schedule and bring it and make it more simplified. And of course, always go to Tesla Silicon Valley, check out our shop. But with that said, big announcements coming over the coming months. hot off the press for xtakeover.com and this event going from California to Texas. And, you know, we've been blown away by the outpouring of the community, the amount of tickets that have been sold. I think originally we were a little bit nervous going to a state that we didn't really have our base in, but it's almost like at this point, and this is not trying to be arrogant, or it's crazy to think that that's no longer the case, that we can take something from one state to the next. And obviously that probably helps with the location announcement as well, but it's crazy how Austin is just super central to a lot of our fan base and people that want to come to an amazing community event.
June 5th and 6th, there's the takeover in Flachau, Austria. John's going to be there. There's the summer meetup in Muskegon, Michigan. I'll be there for that. If you are able to get to either one of those, you should. It's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of those things where it's like not even coast to coast, across the pond, right? We'll be celebrating early for you guys, kicking off things on the 5th and 6th, doing an epic light show with the Austrians, and a lot of people are expected to come to this one. And then across the pond over later in the day, depending on where you are, you can go to Muskegon and celebrate, you know, the summer meetup with the Tesla owners of Michigan and people like Simon and Brian and some other amazing speakers. So it should be an epic celebration of all things Tesla across the globe that day. So please support both events. And, you know, if you want to see Joe over in, not Joe, sorry, Brian in Michigan, hit him up. And then I'll be over in Flachau, Austria. And then Joe, I know you want to tell us about your trip next week.
That's today, this week. I'm going to Utah. Yeah, I'm taking off today after the pod. We're gonna be traveling to Utah. There's there's Moab and a training ground, Mars training ground out there. There's some pretty cool stuff to see. We're gonna have some really cool photos.
Do it, man. Wish I could join you guys. Have an epic time.
Do it, lady.
But with that said, we will see you guys on the next one. Literally trying to end this stream
and we're clear. And we're
not
clear.
Not